afternoon, everyone. It's so wonderful to see all you, and we're having an old home week with some of you that we haven't seen for a long time. And Marnie always brings her own crowd in there. So, I'm Becky Hope. My parents started this program. We call this our 36th season. It's actually about 38 years that we started the program in Batavia, and had to skip a couple of seasons because of COVID, but we're still going, and we appreciate the library. And Kristen is back there and is our great liaison with the library and helped set up this extra program because Marnie and Mary had this new book that we wanted you to see and not wait another season. So for any of you who would like to be on my email list and get my monthly email about the upcoming programs, it is on the back table of green clipboard, and please sign up with your email and you'll just hear from me once a month. We have extra flyers from the programs, and we have February, March, April, and May. Our last program is in May, so I hope you can attend some of our future programs. And without further ado, I want to bring Mary, and Marnie's going to start. And this is her 4th Books Between Bites presentation. So,
well, first of all, thank you so much for coming. It's really an honor to be back, and as Becky said, the 4th time. Mary and I are just thrilled, and I want to especially thank Becky and the Books Between Bites program. What a wonderful tradition for Batavia to have this. And of course, our wonderful Batavia Public Library, and Kristen and Andrew for assisting us back there have been wonderful. And my good friend Gary King, who has helped us once again with our PowerPoint and added our sound effects, which I think you will enjoy. So, but most of all, we want to thank you all for coming back, and those of you who have heard us again, that's especially nice because you might hear a few repetitions, but we'll get to the main part of the story quickly. So we just want to give you a little bit of the backstory of my writing journey, Mary's artistic journey, just a brief recap for those of you who don't know how that began. And then I'd like to tell you a little bit about how the wolf song came to be. And Mary's going to do a demonstration of how her art, her torn and cut paper collage came to be, some of her challenges. And then we'd love to hear your questions and hope we can answer them. And then we've got books available for sale for any, and to sign for any of those that you'd like them. So for those of you who know me, I've been writing for a while. I started my writing journey about 1990, writing personal essays and feature articles for the Chicago Tribune. And eventually some of those articles and essays began to appear in Reader's Digest, Chicken Soup for the Soul, Christian Science Monitor, and eventually I ended up with my own column, Glimpses of Life, with the Daily Herald. So, and one of the things, before I get there, I wanted to tell you, if you have not heard a wolf before, courtesy of Mr. King, this is what it sounds like. And here's our wolf welcome to you. So we started on this writing journey, and my essays underfoot. I came out with my first book, Return to Wake Robin, One Cabin in the Heyday of Northwoods Resorts, 1920s to 1960s, and that came out in 2012 with the Wisconsin Historical Society Press. And it's all about that bygone era when all you needed were the basics in a boat. And then in 2017, I collected all those essays that I'd written, and Wisconsin Historical Society again published my this book on a clear night, Essays from the Heartland. All those ordinary moments, excuse me, that become extraordinary over time, those universal emotions that connect us like stars on a clear night. And a lot of those stories are centered here in Batavia, and hopefully will have resonated with a lot of you, those of you who have read it. And then in 2018, I began writing perspectives for NPR's WNIJ station out in at DeKalb at Northern Illinois University. And these are little 90-second vignettes that are about 275 words. So very short distilling of thoughts about your perspective, what you want to say. Many of them sometimes can be political. I tend to stay with nature, family, relationships, finding hope. And I've written over 40 of those since then, and 2 of them have become our books, The Woodpecker Song and now The Wolf Song and Me. So on this writing journey, how did Mary come into to be a partner on this adventure? So Mary and I knew each other a little bit back in high school. We both grew up in Aurora, and we were both cheerleaders. I was a cheerleader for West Aurora High School. Mary was for Marnie, and she attended Madonna. So sometimes our paths would cross, and we knew each other slightly. And then, lucky for us, we both ended up as neighbors on Deer Path Road for 25 years, across the street from one another. And there weren't a lot of children around, so Mary's son, Brad, and my 3 boys all hung out together. We were best of buddies. And we had shared many fantastic moments with Christmas caroling and taking the boys to the zoo and trick-or-treating every year and going to a tea party or some such thing with our hats, I'm not too sure. But anyway, I've always loved Mary's art, I'd see her art. She'd send out flyers when we were going Christmas caroling, and our dear neighbors, the Thielens, Helen, who's here, and Lucy, would leave their porch light on and welcome us with hot chocolate and cookies. And so some of those essays and traditions are in On a Clear Night. And when I decided to take one of my first essay I wrote, actually, for NPR, the perspective was called A Walking in the Winter Woods, and I wrote it in 2018, and for some reason it kept calling to me as a children's story. And so I thought maybe we could adapt it to that, and knowing Mary's art, she uses all kinds of medium in different styles of art. If she'd like to join me, I had no idea what she would choose, but I trusted her completely, and when I saw her cover, I knew that I was a very lucky writer to have her on this journey with me. So our first book, The Woodpecker Song, which is about a walk down a snowy forest road and hearing the woodpecker tapping, and what is the message or theme of that, and it's dreaming big. And this is a little introduction to that. Rat-a-tap-tap sings the woodpecker in the snowy winter's woods, but what is he really saying? Or more importantly, how can the beauty of nature speak to a child's imagination? So we were so excited about this first book that the Woodpecker Song is our first book in Finding Wisdom in Nature series. We decided to make this a series, and it's actually a song trilogy. It developed into that, which we'll come to a little bit later on. But we were thrilled to have this book come out, and thrilled for Books Between Bites to invite us to do that. So we wanted to jump right into that second book, and we chose The Wolf. Now, you might wonder why we would choose The Wolf. And Mary, actually, this photo this is right after our Books Between Bites last spring. It was a solar eclipse. Mary had designed the cover for the wolf story already, and came by the old neighborhood where we still are, and wanted to show it to me. So we've got our eclipse glasses on, if you're wondering why we were looking so strange. And here's Mary's cover up close. So this is what her idea was right away. And again, we were so excited, as was the wolf. It's a long haul, Mr. King, thank you. So you might be wondering, why do we choose the wolf? The wolf is very controversial. We know all the stories of the big bad wolf and the fairy tales and the myths and the legends over the centuries. And but there's a lot more to that story than just the big bad wolf. And for me, I was introduced to the wolf as a child. I was very lucky to be up at this cabin that I wrote about in Return to Wake Robin, that we've had this little cabin in our family for 95 years. And across the lake, back in the 50s and 60s, when my brothers and sisters and I were growing up, spending a couple weeks every summer, we would hear the wolves howl from this very area. So what you're seeing there, the wetlands across the lake, undeveloped, and we would also often hear the wolves howl late at night or early in the morning. So we children were kind of fascinated with that, and my father called him Willie the Wolf. He named all the creatures of the forest, so Blackie Bear, Willie the Wolf, Freddie Fox, Rocky Raccoon. So we felt the animals of the forest were our friends. And so when we would hear the wolf howl, he would just say, don't be afraid, it's just Willie the Wolf calling his friends. Well, that made complete sense to us because we call our friends all the time. You know, you see them on the playground or down the block, or, and so we were calling our friends often. And we just loved hearing them. Sadly, in around the 70s, they were exterminated. There was a bounty on their head. And so for a while, long while, wolves had disappeared from northern Wisconsin. But I loved the wolves so much that even as a child in 3rd grade, I dressed up as Little Red Riding Hood. My mother made a little red corduroy cape, blue skirt. I had my grandmother's old wicker basket, Welsh grape juice, and homemade bread. And I was off to see grandmother, Big Wolf, Bad Wolf or not. So I've never had a fear of the wolf. However, several years ago, over the last decade or so, as you all probably know, wolves have been reintroduced to the United States, particularly into Yellowstone, Minnesota, and they have come over into Wisconsin. So in the last decade or so, we have started to hear them again howl from the wetlands and different parts of the forest where we go every summer. And so this was about 2018-19. I was walking down the same snowy forest road that I had when I was inspired to write the Woodpecker song, and there were wolf tracks, and I do see them often. And a wolf's track is very large. It's very long. It's a long stride, and the back paw often comes down on the front paw, so that you can see the back paws landed on the front paw. The stride is usually very straight, and there's often more than one. There's often at least two, and you can follow their trail down the road and where they go into the woods. And up close, the track looks like this, and it's about the size of my hand. I'll put my hand over the track, and just to see the size that I'm, to compare. And it's very powerful. It's very big. So, of course, even though I have not been afraid of wolves, know a lot about them, it is rather startling to be in a snowy woods by yourself alone and know that they're surrounded. So I would stop and kind of look and scan the forest to see if I see any movement, or is there a wolf, or are there more than one wolf? And so as an adult, I have to make a decision. Is it fear or fascination that I'm going to choose? And so one of the themes that Mary and I wanted to get across in this book was facing fear, and how do we face our fear with facts, and how can we help children understand things that they maybe fear and don't understand. And we hope that our little story kind of introduces them to another side of the wolf, and that not only for wolves but for people or places or situations that we fear, if we have a greater understanding of those people, places, situations, wildlife, we can perhaps exist more in harmony and peace and better understanding. So that is kind of the focus and our theme of the wolf song in me. Now, I've been lucky to see wolves in the wild in Yellowstone, for one, and several times, and across the meadows sometimes in northern Wisconsin, and also on a frozen lake. I've seen them run. And I also have written a number of stories about wolves. Some of the essays I wrote in On a Clear Night are about wolves. And one of them involves a story. I was in northern Wisconsin several years ago, and it was summertime, and I had gone to a ranger program, a lecture, at the Cable Natural History Museum, which is a darling little museum in Cable, Wisconsin. And the forest ranger gave a wonderful lecture about wolves in the area, the packs, They mate for life. The packs help raise the young. They are very intelligent and often play tag with one another. So, and often after these lectures, the forest ranger would take the group out into the forest at dusk, where the wolf pack was known to be, and they would howl for the wolves. And the wolves will sometimes howl back. So that was very exciting to me. Well, unfortunately it rained that night, so I was not able to partake in that. But a couple days later, I went out kayaking on the lake in that same area that I just showed you where the wetlands were. And I knew the wolves were back and it started to howl. So I was kayaking, it was kind of misty, the sun was setting. And I thought, well, maybe if I howl, the wolves will answer back. So, ow, ow. I did that a number of times, no answer. Paddled a little farther, the mist cleared, there was a fishing boat with 3 fishermen in it who saw this howling woman. I ran out of the hill and I hope to not see her again. So I didn't have any luck with the howling, but I did test it. 2 of my favorite books that I want to share with you about wolves. I've read a lot of books about wolves. One of my favorite, maybe my favorite, is Never Cry Wolf by Farley Mowat, which is a wonderful, wonderful memoir of his experience, a biologist, scientist, being in the wilds of Canada and observing wolves for a whole season. It's funny, it's poignant, it's very educational, and it's a beautiful story and really introduces you to the nature of wolves. A second book that I really like is American Wolf that came out just a few years ago by Nate Blakesley. And again, it's about the wolves that were introduced into Yellowstone. And it follows those packs, and particularly one, the leader wolf in particular. It's a beautiful story, again, very educational and informative. So when Mary and I decided to do the Wolf Song in Me, Mary had the challenge of trying to make the art appear three-dimensional, especially with the tracks. And so this is her workstation. You can see her figure there, a child that we try to keep neutral, boy or girl, and the wolf is getting ready to be on the page, jump on the page, and her wolf tracks. And she's going to tell you a little bit more about how she made those tracks. Here she is cutting and tearing all the little pieces, and there are a lot of little pieces that make this book come to life. So let me share, before she begins to tell you about her art, let's see what she did. And again, we're just so excited that you're here for the Wolf Song and Me. And here's the cover finished, if you haven't seen it before. So you'll be able to howl in no time when you're in the woods. All right, so, and we set the book in autumn because our first book, The Woodpecker Song, was winter. And we wanted to change the setting, and it worked out perfectly for tracks in the snow, or in the after rain on a muddy forest road. So this is that perspective turned into a children's story. I am not afraid, though maybe I should be, for I am walking with wolves. Not really, of course, but we are on the same trail. I know this because sometimes I see their tracks as I hike an old logging road in the forest near my home. Dotted with puddles after a soft rain, my muddy path is also abuzz with the prints of deer, wild turkey, and fox. But it is the wolf that interests me most. Sometime before sunrise, the wolves have left their striding tracks like clues in a mystery for me to discover. I feel a thrill as if I am following the Pied Piper on some mystical journey. This is one of my favorite illustrations by Mary. Usually there's only one set of wolf tracks, but on this golden morning, smaller wolf tracks have joined a bigger leader. The tracks parallel each other like buddies on a walk. As I follow along, it's as though I have joined them in a bond of friendship. And I love Mary's woodpecker on the tree here, a nod to our woodpecker song. And I love the fur on the coat of fur on the wolf and how many pieces of paper that took to create. She'll let you know. Every now and then I stop and scan the forest to see if a wolf might be watching me. But all I see are the flickering shadows of ruby orange leaves waving in the wind. I've learned wolves are generally not dangerous to humans, so even though our paths are crossing closely, I have no fear. In fact, I find it comforting to know such wild, intelligent creatures are willing to share their beautiful woodland home with me. And to show my appreciation, I offer up my own wolf song as a greeting. Oh, who knows? They just might answer me back in the spirit of peace. And I also love this illustration by Mary. So we've included for the children that read the story and the adults some wolf fun facts. So wolves typically avoid people. They howl to communicate with each other. A wolf's fur can be brownish gray, but also white or black. A wolf's average foot size is 4 inches wide, 5 inches long, and they can run up to 38 miles an hour. Common food for wolves is elk, deer, and moose. Wolf pups weigh only 1 pound at birth, but around 3 weeks they are ready to leave their den and explore their world. And my source is the International Wolf Center in Ely, Minnesota. It's a wonderful website. They have beautiful pictures of real wolves there, a great educational center as well. If you're ever up in that neck of the woods, I encourage you to check it out, or the website. And we've included discussion questions, as we did for the woodpecker song, to engage the child and the reader. So, do you sometimes feel afraid? And if so, what frightens you? And how do you calm your fears? And I've gotten some great responses to that from children and adults. I promise it will bring you a good discussion. When you are out in nature, what do you like to discover? What animals, birds, and tree colors can you find? What colors and clothing show you it's early autumn? And how do the pictures help tell the story? And as a bonus, Mary included a demonstration of following the wolf circles to draw your own wolf, and how this can lead to many other wildlife animals as well. We were at Alice Gustafson School last week for a presentation, and the children were all over this. They saw chickens and fox and dogs and all kinds of things. And so with that, I'd like to turn the program over to Mary, and she's going to show you how she created this delightful art.
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Mary Parks, and I'm so sorry about my raspy voice. Can't get rid of it. I'm going to do my very best, though. Luckily, I do more over there than I do here. Just a quick, I'm going to make this real short. Last time that you were here, we had longer introductions, but I'm going to make this one shorter for those who weren't here. I'm sorry. I started off in an elementary school. It was a Byzantine, small, parochial school. There were 3 classrooms with grades 1 through 8 in the classrooms, which meant the teachers were a little busy. And so therefore, art was nothing more than a coloring sheet of the Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria on Thanksgiving, et cetera, et cetera. My parents weren't involved with art. Nobody I knew was involved with art. But it didn't seem to make any difference, because what you don't know, right? So anyway, at the same time, I was in that little school. I was taking piano lessons, and when I got to high school, I immediately entered high school. I was at Madonna High School in Aurora, Illinois, and I immediately entered to be in the choir. Me in the choir. And it's been, this is very low alto. Anyway, I joined the choir, and then I accompanied once in a while with the piano. Now, if you ever gone to an all-girls school, you don't accompany very much. Every single one of those girls in that class almost took piano lessons. So, there we were doing our thing as us girls. But what happened was, is all the way through high school, I stayed in music. And I loved it, no problem. At the end of my high school years, the nuns found me a 4-year scholarship for a teacher's grant to be a teacher at Northern Illinois University. I wasn't going to Illinois University. I was going to Marquette University. I was all set to go. My mother decided I wasn't going there. She decided I was going to take this opportunity because she thought the nuns knew best. Okay. Anyway, no, what I'm saying is they did. I guess I'm trying to figure out how to get to you because I ended up teaching, but let me tell you how I got there. So here I am, and I'm at college, and I'm at my dorm room, and I'm seeing this girl, quintessential hippie. I was a hippie college girl. The big John Lennon glasses, What was with this girl? She was an art major. I found myself living in that room. I just absolutely loved everything I saw. I was taking her assignments and doing them on my own. And we got to talking, and she said to me, "Why don't you be an art teacher?" And I said, "I never heard of an art teacher." I never heard of that. Our school was college bound and secretarial bound in high school. And so she introduced me to Dr. Carmen Armstrong, who happened to be the head of the Northern Illinois Art Education Program and the head of the Illinois State Curriculum for Art. What a person to meet. She said, "Where's your portfolio?" I said, "I've never taken an art class in my life." So she said, next summer, you are spending the whole summer with me here at the university. You'll take my class and 4 others, and we'll see what happens. I did it. I got into both, and now I had a double major teaching art. So my mother was right, the nuns were right, and I found something I never even knew I didn't have. This woman single-handedly took me to Chicago, and I got chills telling you this. It has nothing to do with this. I had chills telling you this, and took me to the Art Institute for the first time in my life. I couldn't believe it. I mean, talk about dreaming big and saying yes, which is a lot of part of our book that we were talking about before. So there I was, and I started to do it. I had taught art for 35 years, yes, I did K. Oh, if you ever talk, anybody in here teach kindergarten or something? That went real fast. Anyway, all the way through college, juniors and seniors in college, all the way through all classes, which means I taught everything. I taught watercolor, I taught everything. When you got the little ones, you're teaching them everything. And I know this is going to sound crazy, but I was real driven and very, very excited about it. So I did want to teach everything. Taught everything I could, so I knew a little bit about everything, except jewelry. I never had anything to do with jewelry kind of things or anything like that. I never went into those subjects, but as far as arts, I was pretty much set on what I wanted to do. Loved every minute of it. I'd love to share it with you. When I went to figure out what to do with this book Marnie had sent me, I read the words of her book first. That's what every illustrator should do. I've heard illustrators that don't do that, but we won't go there. But I read, no, really, okay, I'll say, I will. I had a woman in the car with me one time, no names, a woman in the car with me one time who I was taking to the elementary school that I was teaching in, and she was going to talk about her book. And she wasn't happy in the car with me. And I said, what's wrong? And she said to me, she says, "Well, I didn't want this to be a children's book." It ended up being Eric Carle. I don't know if you're familiar with Eric Carle, but this woman just made $1 million, and she, Eric Carle, and I didn't want this to be this way, and very hard for me to feel sorry for her. But there are books that are written, and they don't know the artist, the writer, and they just take it from what they wanted. But if you've ever read Marnie's writing, you'll see that it's so picturesque. She writes in such a picturesque way. The first thing I had to do, was to take and separate the words. And I wanted to find a picture word in every single one. The next thing I wanted to do was her mood. Her mood is beautiful in her books. It's kind, it's soft, and yet it's adventurous in some crazy way, because it is. And then the questions at the end are very adventurous from this soft, sweet story. So here I was, ready to go, and I got illustrators have a million things that they can pick from. You can do painting, you can do watercolor, you can do, help me here, you can do India ink, you can do drawings, you can do pen and ink, you can do just millions of different kinds of things. And one of my favorites is collage. And I hadn't worked in collage. So that was very, very encouraging for me to come up with something like that, because I wanted to try it. And not only that, you can use collage to take artwork or to take visions and make it very simple. And the kids that were doing these were young children. So I wanted to make it a very simple and easy to understand background. Okay? With that, I'm going to do a little demonstration of it. I hope you like it.
You need help.
I just got to pull this over. Okay. Can you hear? Yeah, you can hear me. I can hear me, you can hear me. Okay, so blank pieces of paper. When you're working with collage, it's blank pieces of paper. And the first thing I did, I'm embarrassed doing this in front of you, but I'm going to start with our first book, and then I'm going to go to our second book. The first thing I did was try to figure out snow. Now, come on. That's nothing. You just take a piece of paper, and you just tear it. And you got snow. And if you turn it the right way, you even have it looks like the snow is softer on one side. So that's a very simple way to start. I got my snow. Okay. There's my snow. Worked easy. Next thing is, do I want to put anything in the sky? Okay, so this is a wonderful paper to use to make clouds. So you just tear the clouds. I'm not doing a good job. I'll tell you why, because there's some sharp edges, and I've never seen a cloud with a sharp edge, but just tearing the clouds out.
Is that onion skin?
This is simply, what's this called?